Well, hi everyone and welcome back. If you're joining me for the first time, an especially warm welcome to you. It's Christmas 2020 and we've had a pretty rubbish year this year, but all the same, all the way through the year I've continued to make videos for you. If you're not aware, my name's Joe, and for the last year I've been making videos which cover the restoration of parts on the 3000 GT, GTO, VR4 Dodge Stealth series of cars. Now, being Christmas, of course, I wanted to do something special, and today we're going to be covering a video that has been requested by so many people. Without a doubt, this has been the #1 requested video this last year. Now, I should say that I'm not a professional mechanic, I'm not a professional upholsterer, but I do have 30 years experience working on these cars. I have owned one for at least 30 years. I presently have quite a large collection of them, and I spend all of my spare time restoring them. So even though I don't have an official qualification, I'd like to think that I have a pretty good knowledge, and you can share that knowledge with people from other forums and YouTube channels, etc., to get all the information you need. Now today's video is, as I say, quite special. The door cards are now becoming a big problem, and unless you're Elon Musk or Bill Gates, chances are you probably can't afford a replacement, even if you can get hold of one. These things are seriously expensive, something along the lines of the space shuttle before it was retired. And I don't know where Mitsubishi come up with these prices, but all the same, the average person on the street can't afford replacement ones. The good news is, for most problems with them, they are relatively easy to repair and the cost is absolutely minimal. Now, they suffer with three main problems. One is the card backing starts to break up and deteriorate and doesn't form to the door anymore. Second one is splits in the vinyl covering, and the third and the most common and most requested one is this bubbling of the vinyl. Now, this is a problem that has gone on for many years, and I've been to professional upholsterers and they couldn't give a solution to it. They could only give ideas. I've tried all of those ideas. Over the last 5 or so years that I've been working on this problem on and off, I've gone through door card after door card after door card trying to solve this problem. So it has cost me an awful lot of money. Until recently, I found a company on the net that was selling a product that sounded like it would work. Now, there's lots of reasons that this is such a problem. First of all, we have the plastic which has changed shape. Now, there are reasons for this that we'll talk about in a minute. Fortunately, this is a thermoplastic that they use, and thermoplastics can be reshaped and reformed back into the shape that you need them at. Secondly, the construction of this door card. Originally, it would have been a single sheet of vinyl that was heated up and then vacuum formed onto the door backing and bonded down. Of course, we don't have a vacuum forming machine that's big enough to do this. If we did, we don't have the original vinyl. And so practically speaking, it's not possible to do this job at home if you're to do it the way they did it at the factory. So we need to find other ways. Now, part of the problem is this type of plastic that they've used doesn't seem to stick down with all the common stuff that you use for vinyls, as they often do with many of the cars when they recover the inside of a car. This particular plastic doesn't seem to want to stick down. Now, I've tried all the usual, what do they call it? The words. I've tried super glue, that's not the one I'm thinking of. Contact adhesive, that's the one. Right, so super glue will stick it down, but the problem with super glue is once it's bonded, it goes rock hard, and then you find you lose all this nice soft feel to the vinyl. Second problem is once you've stuck it down, it sticks like concrete, and if you need to move it, you can't. Third problem is it makes the plastic go hard and white, and over time it caused other problems. So there was a lot of problems with super glue. I strongly recommend you don't use super glue. The contact adhesive that you can get from the shop wouldn't hold it at all, and industrial contact adhesive only held to a certain degree. So contact adhesives didn't work. I couldn't find a proper manufacturer that uses this exact technique on door cards anymore to find out exactly what they use, and the chances are the vinyl was originally mass produced with a coating on it. So as I say, I found someone on eBay who I'm going to be mentioning in a minute who was prepared to give us advice and help. They do have a product that works. I've used it myself and it works absolutely brilliantly, as good as the original product. So we're going to go through a technique today that purely deals with this bubbling problem of the door card and hopefully make it look like new again. Now I've picked on this one, even though I have a number of others to do. I've picked on this one particularly because this is one of the worst I've seen. It's actually bubbled in multiple places, and it's going to take a lot of work to do this door card, but it will give you an example of just how easy it is to recover the worst possible situation. Those of you that don't have anything this bad, you're going to have an easy time. So it is quite a lengthy job. During the video we're going to be cutting it in a number of places because you don't want to watch glue dry. That is just a waste of your time and a waste of film. So I'm going to show you the technique, and then we're going to cut the film while the glue dries a bit, and then I'll show you it being bonded down. As usual, we'll go through the tools required for the job. We're going to strip down the door card ready to do the job. We're going to look at cleaning and then preparation for bonding it all down. So it's quite a long video to do, but with this video, unlike many other videos, we won't be doing time lapse, we won't be doing little bits off screen. You're going to see the whole thing from start to finish with no hidden bits, and hopefully at the end we're going to get a perfect finish. Now some people have asked why you get the problem. There's actually quite a few reasons why you could get the problem, but no one's actually managed to turn around and say to me, absolutely 100% this is the reason you're getting the problem, because not everyone is having the problem. Now I'm going to take a guess, and if I grab this door card here and hold it up to the light, you're going to see that if you look at that vinyl through the light, it has been stretched. Just here, it's a good place. It's been stretched to the point where it's become so thin you can actually see through it. And those places where it's gone thin like that are mostly the places it bubbles. So I'm going to take a guess that some of you are using commercial cleaners on these door cards rather than taking the advice of Mitsubishi and saying just use regular mild soapy water and just wipe it down. The problem with some of the commercial cleaning products is their solvents, and where the vinyl is so thin, the solvent is going through. It's causing the glue to debond. Once it debonds, you get a tiny air pocket, and air expands with heat. So once the sun comes out and you've got that tiny little air bubble, it's going to expand and make a bigger air bubble. With the bigger air bubble, as the temperature cools down, it will draw in more air, which then when the sun comes out, it will expand a bit more, and that bubble's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The one that we're working on is an extreme example of that, and we're going to try and cure the problem. The other thing is, of course, with this vinyl, once it starts to shrink, because it's got cold, it's hard to get it to go back to where it was. So trying to glue it down is not really an option without doing the whole job completely and properly. I've seen people staple these down. I've seen them use extra trim. I've heard people talk about injecting glue through there, super glue. The problem with all of those is as the vinyl contracts, wherever you've punctured it, it's going to pull away and split further, especially with it being so thin. So what we're going to do now is put this door card down. We're going to grab some tools so you can see what you're going to be needing to do the job, and then we'll get on with it. Okay, so we have a very daunting table full of parts here that are going to be needed to do this job. But don't be put off, because it's actually divided into 3 sections. We've got the tools to dismantle the door card, the equipment to clean the door card, then the parts we need to repair the door card. So quite simple really, very basic stuff you're going to need. A regular Phillips screwdriver. I'm going to use a little tiny pair of cutters. You'll see what all these parts are for as we go along, and you may well decide, as always, that there's something else you'd rather use that you've got to hand. And also, as always, these videos aren't really rehearsed. So sometimes during a video you'll find that I've forgotten something, or something else comes to mind that might do the job better, and I'll have to run and get those parts. So you decide for yourself what you need most. So a little pair of cutters I'm going to use, 10mm wrench, this one's on a 1/4 inch drive, but it doesn't really matter which size. You're going to need some plastic trim tools. I've also got these little dental tools. I find these quite handy. You'll see what they're going to be used for in a minute. You might choose to just use a standard kitchen knife that hasn't got a really sharp blade. And the good old Dremel. Dremel, just a brand name. All you need is some sort of drill with some sort of cutting or grinding or sanding disc on the end. Again, you'll see what that's for in a minute. Then for the cleaning, we're going to follow Mitsubishi's proper cleaning process. We're not going to use any chemicals for this. So you're going to use some regular, unperfumed, unchemicaled soap. It comes in a number of different brands. I'm sure you're going to find it in one of your shops somewhere. Just regular plain soap, a sponge, nail brush, possibly a toothbrush, and some rags. The rags are actually going to be used for a lot of different things, so make sure you've got a good stack of nice soft rags, something that's not going to scratch the surface. Then as far as getting the job actually done, you're going to need a hot air gun. You may get away with a hairdryer as long as it comes to quite a high temperature. Some mineral oil. I'm just using simple baby oil, which is mineral oil. You may or may not, depending on how serious your problems are, use a spray-on adhesive promoter. It's something that's mostly used on plastics to encourage paint to stick better to the plastic. So far I've not managed to need it, but there may be an occasion for you where you do need it. Then I've started using these little mops. These are going to be used for putting the glue on. Now they're really useful because they can be squished down quite small. They're easy to spread. You can cover a large area in one go. Very, very cheap. I think this whole bag was about $2. So if you can find these online, it's worth buying a set of these. If not, I guess you could use your finger or a paintbrush or whatever to help you spread the glue around. Some acetone. Now this is really, really important. I've not gone to the trouble of choosing or using lots of different solvents to clean the card on the glue side, but acetone is safe and easy to use for this particular application. Do not be tempted to use thinners because the polyurethane on the back will be dissolved by thinners. So do not use paint thinners. Acetone does the job beautifully. And then finally, this is the most important one, and I've got to say a really big thank you to the tuning shop in the UK. I'm going to show you their details in a minute. They gave me a little bit of advice online about this product. It's perfect for all of the surfaces we're going to be gluing. It glues as strong, if not slightly stronger, than the original bonding on the door cards. And better still, it maintains that nice soft texture rather than go hard and brittle like super glue. As I say, I have tried it numerous times. It works really, really well. And to feel how good it was, I actually tried to peel the backing off again afterwards. and it had at least the same strength as the original glue bonding of the vinyl. So this particular one that you need to get, now be careful, there are a number of products in this exact same packaging but with a different glue inside, and the way to tell the difference is by this stock number down the bottom here. The one you need is R938, and as I say, if you are in the UK, it'll be a real favour if you look up this shop, because they were good enough to help us with this product, and they even sent me a couple of extra tubes in order to complete this video. So please give them a call, mention my name and the GTO restoration channel, just to help them out as a thank you for getting this product for us. And did I mention a bowl of water, just plain water, in order to do the cleaning. Now there's one final thing. With winter here in the UK now, it's pretty cold outside. This job has to be done in a warm room, and this is the perfect time of year for me to do this, because in the summer I like to do all the outdoor jobs. So make sure you do the job indoors, or if you're lucky enough to work in a nice warm climate, then you can do it outside, but make sure it is a warm day. So that's about it. I'm going to clear the bench now and we'll move on to the next stage. Now, as I said, this is not going to be a quick job, but it is a job that every single person can do at home. It does not require any specialist skills, but what it does require is patience and time to get the job done properly. Now, in order to continue with this job, we first of all need to determine which parts need repair. And from there, we can decide which parts we need to remove. Now, if your problem is purely down on one corner here, you're only going to need to access that corner. But because I have the problem all the way along here, and along here, I have to peel back everything up to the line where it's already bonded. And that involves taking out the speaker, the buttons, the handle and the lights. Not a difficult job. I've already told you what tools we're going to need. So we're going to start that process now. Starting off with the light. Just use your plastic trim tool. And these lenses, if you get just under the edge, well, normally just pop up like that. Put them in the box. Now we have a couple of screws. By the way, I forgot to mention the door card obviously needs to be taken off the car, but that's already covered in another video, the removal and refitting of door cards. So you can look that up yourself in order to get that off, and it will also show you the correct way of putting it back on without doing any damage. And quite often that's one of the biggest causes of damage along this top edge, where people don't put them back on properly. It forces the card up on one edge, and then as moisture gets to it, the card starts to degrade. So that's the light off. Then we've got a couple of clips here. These we usually just pull off with your fingers. Now we're going to turn the door card over. 4 screws will get your speaker grill out. Just pop your screws back in your hole and you know where they all came from, rather than losing them. I've seen so many people use wood screws and all sorts of things purely because they lost the originals. Now we've got the handle to take off. That's held by 2 10mm, or actually 3. One is underneath the other. Now I do believe not all of the door cards have this second nut here. Some of them are bolted straight down onto the card. Over the years, Mitsubishi have done a number of modifications to just about everything on these cars. Not all of the modifications seem necessary. Some of them have actually made the problems worse. But just follow whatever your one was. Okay, now because I'm only doing the bottom section of this is everything for me, except there should be a button cover here. Now this door card has already had it removed by a previous owner who broke it trying to get it out. So I've got another one here, and I'm going to show you the correct way to get these out. Now this is going to be something most of you won't want to do, because you're going to think, well, I've got to spend more money and it's more work, etc, etc. Believe me, it is better to spend an extra $1 than ruin your door card. So what you're going to need to do first of all is remove the electric buttons. Just a couple of screws for those. One down the back here, if you can see it. And then one on this side. The black one will go into the plastic. The gold ones go into metal. Then we won't lose them. Now here's where it gets a bit more complicated. And it's the reason that this piece of black plastic is not on the other one. People try to get these clips off that hold the plastic in. These are single-use, one-way clips. Once you push them on, it is pretty much impossible to get them off without breaking the plastic. So here's where your Dremel comes in. All you need is a cutting disc or a sanding disc on there, and all you're going to do is gently wear away one side of the metal clip, possibly two sides, depends, it makes no difference. You're just going to have to cut away each of those metal clips. Do not do sustained cutting, because they'll get really hot and then they'll snap the plastic. So just gently wear them away and just buy new clips. They're not a Mitsubishi product. You're going to find someone on eBay or somewhere online that sells these one-way retainers. They are a commercial product available in lots of places. So just order new ones, grind those off, put on new ones, and then you won't have any breakages. And they really are really cheap, so don't worry about having to buy new ones. That will get that cover out. So that's the door card stripped down. Oh, the other thing that was missing off mine is these little white retainers here. Just pinch them in with your fingers and they push through like so. I'll pop them back in because we're not working on this particular door card. I'll put that back down there. Okay, give me a minute, we'll get the stuff for the next stage. Okay, I've got the stuff ready for cleaning, but I've just noticed there's one part that I forgot, or four of them actually, and you will need to know about these because it will tear the vinyl if you don't take them out. You will notice here, here, here and here there is a little metal clip, if I quickly turn this over, or a little metal screw hole. These need to be removed because they hold the plastic in place. If you don't remove them, it will tear the plastic. And that's what I'm using these little tiny side cutters for. It allows me to just get hold of the lip enough to lift it up, and when it's lifted up we should then be able to pop them out and even reuse them. Just take your time, there's no particular rush. That's popped out there. There we go, so now we can reuse that. But they are available on the market if you want to buy new ones. So I'll come back to this in a second off screen, save some video time. We'll get on with the cleaning process. Now this bit of cleaning is so important. Do not think that you can bypass the cleaning bit. No one likes cleaning, it takes time, and if you think, well, I'll clean my car every week, it's all fine, I use this product, that product, forget it. If I'm right, if the reason that these are bubbling up is because your cleaning chemicals have gone through and started to break down the bonding, then it's all the more reason to clean the panel completely. This is what your soap's for, a little nail brush, clean water, and this is all Mitsubishi tell you to use for cleaning. So you get your soap and your water, and you are going to try your hardest to scrub every last little piece of dirt out of every last crevice, corner, and you can see over the years the amount of muck that builds up that you can't actually get to is quite incredible. So bit by bit, we are going to do the whole door card, every last little bit, even if it's not where you have the problem. Now I'm going to cut the video here because there's no point in you watching me for the next 20 minutes just scrubbing the door card. But you know exactly what I'm doing. When I've finished doing all the scrubbing, look at the colour of this. This is disgusting. When I finish the scrubbing, I'm then going to get my cloth. I'm going to wet it, or a sponge, whichever you prefer. Sponge might be easier actually. Just clean water, and we're going to wipe all this muck off. Look at that. And I knew this wasn't a particularly good door card, that it had been mistreated, but that is absolutely disgusting. So just regular plain soap and water and a scrubbing brush, clean the whole door card. I'll come back to you in about 20 minutes after I finish the cleaning. So while we've been off video time, I've now finished cleaning this card. It took me about 20 minutes. This thing was so damn disgusting, it was unreal. In all the little pockets, I used the toothbrush and some soap. So we've got all these clean now. And you're going to be needing all these little areas as markers for how to put it back together. And I just saved this water for you. I thought you might want to see this. This is the muck off that door card. That is absolutely disgusting. And this has come out of someone's car, a car that I've obviously bought at some point. I can't remember which one because I've taken off so many door cards for experimenting with this. And of course, Christmas time, here's to all of you. Right, so moving on to the next thing. I'm going to be using these little dental tools. It's purely going to aid me to slip underneath certain edges. Now this vinyl is quite strong, but it's also very easily torn. It's a bit like sellotape. You know, if you try and pull sellotape, it's really strong. You get a tiny little nick in it and it falls apart easily. Well, this is the same. So when we start taking this door card apart, wherever there's any tears or original factory slits in the vinyl to get it to fold over, we're going to have to be extra careful not to tear it, and we're going to be getting under edges. We're going to try and separate the foam from the vinyl bit by bit. Now once you get going, it generally peels up really easily, but you're going to take your time, as much time as it takes to pull all of this off, separating the urethane foam from the vinyl. Now in places, especially on this side, you're going to find that the foam won't separate, but don't worry too much about it because the backing can't be seen anyway. Along this edge here there is no foam, so it will come apart quite easily once you get to that. Now if you recall, my problem on this card goes all the way up to this edge. So I've got to peel the whole thing all the way back, and that's going to take some time, but we're going to do a little bit on video and a little bit off video so you can get an idea of what's involved. Do not attempt to rush the job. As I said, these are incredibly expensive. if you can even get hold of one. Now here's where we've got to be careful because we've got a split in here. So I'm now going to use this and I'm going to try to slide under there bit by bit to separate the edges without splitting them.
Is it a problem if the foam comes off of the wooden backing?
No, it's not a problem. However, it's not likely to happen on the other side. It's only on this side because this seems to have been glued differently. I think they've just used a regular contact adhesive here rather than whatever's on the other side. So we're just going to peel all of this away.
Did you remember to take out the two metal?
I did take out the two studs. Slide down there. So you're getting the basic idea here. Just a little bit at a time. Do not try to rush the job. I can promise you it will go wrong if you attempt to rush it. I've done it myself many times and it has cost me an obscene amount of money. So you don't need to waste that money. I've done it for you. Instead of one of these dental tools, which by the way I think the whole set only cost me $2 or $3, but you can just use a knife that doesn't have a sharp edge, or anything you can find really that will allow you to slide between these edges and separate them. There we go, it's starting to peel back now. Just work your way back and forth over and over and over until you get to where you want to be. Okay, now I can turn this over. I'm going to start on the other side. Same process, just nice and slowly. Now just as another tip, if it's any help, sometimes you find little areas that are really tight and you can use the hot air gun for these. If I can just plug this in here. Anything that's just a little bit tight, just heat up the vinyl slightly. Now you don't want to get it so hot that it burns the plastic. Just a gentle warming, and if you're on a hot summer's day then it won't be a problem for you, but in the cold, this will just help to make the vinyl that little bit more flexible. You'll also see wherever that you've got an air pocket, as you warm it, it will naturally, you see it bubbling up there? You'll see it naturally start to swell and separate. And this is exactly what it's been doing in the sun. Every time the sun comes out on a hot day, it's causing these air pockets to expand and peel the vinyl away from the car. Well, this is such a big area now that it's reached an opening. So as it expands now, it's coming out of the opening and it won't expand anymore. But of course, over time, it's caused all this damage and all this stretching or shrinking, and now it's too late to put it back together. Should peel a bit easier now it's been warmed up.
I take it the idea is to try and keep as much of the foam on the door rather than on the vinyl as possible.
If you can. We can always stick it back down, but the more even you keep it, the cleaner the job will look. I'm not going to keep this whole thing on video because we're going to peel this all the way back to where it is pre-stuck and not started to lift. So at some point now Mitch is going to cut the video, I'll carry on doing this and then we'll come back after to see the next part of the job.
Just when it gets to the right temperature, it peels off.
Just peels off easy peasy. And what we don't want to do is get it hot where we're not going to be lifting. So I think that's about a spot. I can now pull this all the way back. Now what you're going to notice here is you see some certain spots are wet. This is where I think the chemical has come through and caused the glue to debond, whereas the places where it is still dry was still stuck really nice. And you can see all the little air pockets and moisture, that's literally turned to a liquid. And I honestly believe the real cause of this is completely down to the chemicals that's been used to clean the car. So now we've got to get all of this chemical off and all the old bonding, because it's not going to rebond as it was originally. We're going to put on all new glue right from scratch. So give me a few seconds and we'll get ready for the next bit. Now we move on to the next part of the process, and this once again is another really important part of the process, and that's the preparation of the surface ready to stick the vinyl back down. Now this is so important because the strength of any glue is only as good as the surface that you're sticking to. For instance, you can have the strongest glue in the world, but if you're sticking to something that has dust or oil on it, then it's just going to peel away again. And the same is true for this. So we need to remove all of this sticky residue from both surfaces to make sure that it's ready for the fresh glue to go on. Now, as I said, you need acetone for this. Do not use paint thinners, because this product here is urethane, and urethane does not go well with thinners. You'll watch it just turn into a liquid and run away if you use thinners. Acetone, you don't need to buy a 5 litre can like this. In most countries you can still buy nail polish remover, which is acetone. Just check on the bottle. That'll only cost you $1 or $2 for a bottle of that, and one small bottle will be enough to do the whole door card. I just happen to buy this in bulk because I use it for lots of different things.
What about isopropyl?
Isopropyl, I tried, it didn't work as well. So just your rag, if you're bothered about your skin. I'm afraid I'm old school, and as with all of my videos, I don't do health and safety. It's up to you to do your own research as to what's safe and what's not. Now you're going to find as you clean this muck off that you're left with a surface that's quite, I don't know how to describe it. It just feels like it's ready to have something stuck to it. creates a really nice key. You see it takes away the shine and starts to go very matte finish.
Looks like leather.
Yeah. So once again, this is a bit of a slow process. You've got to do both sides, both the vinyl and the backing. Clean them all thoroughly, take off all the old glue, any chemicals that are on there that may have gone through from when you've cleaned your car. You see it's all coming up really nice. And you'll find that the yeah, I don't know what that is, but now it's a nice foam finish rather than a tacky, horrible finish. So don't try to cut corners with this. You're going to have to take your time, clean both surfaces perfectly, and we'll come back to you as soon as I've done mine. Okay, you may notice from this point that I grin a little bit more, I'm a little bit red-faced and perhaps slur my words a little bit. I've said previously that I don't give health and safety advice because I'm old school, but on this occasion I am going to give you a little bit of advice. Acetone is extremely flammable and it's a solvent, so it's been giving off fumes like you wouldn't believe, and we sat here grinning and giggling and then realised why. So we've had to open the door. It's not the alcohol we've been drinking, it's more the alcohol we've been inhaling. So please, if you're using the acetone, do it outside in fresh air. So moving on, I'll try to complete this with a straight face, sorry. So I've cleaned the vinyl, it's now no longer tacky. I've cleaned the polyurethane, so that's no longer tacky, and we're ready to move on to the next part. We need to take a note of a couple of key marker points, because it's no point in stretching this across and then trying to force it in, because you'll know that there's holes already cut here and we need to line all of those up. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to start from this side and work our way down. We're going to line up all of our holes because those should not be moved, and it'll give us an idea of where we are in the process. So just poke everything in, stretch it out to get it where it needs to be. And as long as all your holes line up, you then know from that point what we've got to play with. So we've got this area here that's no longer stuck down here. Even though it's not stuck, it's fallen into position, so we don't have to work that. But here I can see the line here, but the groove for the line is further down there, so we need a little bit of stretching of the vinyl there. And we've got this giant pocket here that needs redoing. Now, as I said, this is a thermoplastic, so that allows us to warm it up and stretch it back into position, and the position we're going to try and go for is so that everything lines up as we put it into place. Now, high ridges are less of a problem when you're gluing down. The most important thing is the troughs, because this is the place where it's been stretched. Originally it would have been a straight sheet of vinyl, and all they do is push in the middle to make it fit, and that's a bit that's tried to shrink back to its original shape. So the key to all of this is heat. We don't want too much heat, and to make sure we don't get too much, we're going to use mineral oil. Now, just as much as too much heat, not enough heat, can also be a problem. But too much is a serious problem, because too much heat will cause damage to the vinyl. I've just been letting this rag vaporize out in the open air for a little while. So all we're going to do is, in the areas where we're going to have to heat up quite a lot, we're just going to get a bit of mineral oil. Now, we don't want too much, because if there's any porous holes, that will go through. So all we want is a little bit just on the surface, and we're going to use this as a marker to tell us if we're getting too much heat on it. You don't need a lot of oil, it's not to lubricate, it's purely if the oil starts smoking, we know that we've got it a little bit too hot, and that's the time to remove the heat.
And this is working the same way as we did the dashboards?
The same with the dashboards. So we'll just get that there, knowing that we've got to put a lot of heat in that area. I'll get this acetone covered rag back outside before we all get high again. Where did I put the cap? Ah, right there. So it's just a very, very fine bit. If you're in a really hot climate, this is not going to be a problem for you. This is purely for us poor people that are in the cold climates. Do not attempt to heat anywhere where it's still stuck, because it will soften the glue and start to come back again. We're just going to gently warm it, and as it becomes warm it will become more supple and stretchy. Yeah, as it warms up it'll start dropping back to where it belongs. And also don't try and work in just one tiny area, because the more area you can stretch, the less each individual piece has to stretch. It's a bit of a slow process. Don't attempt to rush anything. Now what I'm going to do first of all is glue this area down here, and then we'll work on the next area bit by bit. You cannot do the whole lot on on one piece, on one go. It's going to be a slow process of bit by bit by bit. But we're just trying to get a feel for where everything needs to go and what we need to stretch and what we don't need to stretch.
Wow, it's literally falling back into place on that.
Yep.
That bit.
Now again, as I said at the beginning, this is probably the worst door card I've ever seen. It was bubbled up everywhere. So this one's going to have to be worked a lot more than perhaps yours might have to. And it gives you an idea of exactly what can be done if you're willing to take the time. Assuming this door card works. I've done lots of simple ones with small bubbles, but I just hope we can get enough out of this one. I don't like to write off anything if I can avoid it, because these parts are now getting so rare and so expensive. So I think that's warm enough now for the first bit. So now it's time for the glue. We're going to peel this back again. Get it as tidy as possible to work on. You don't want any creases if you can avoid it. And now we're going to grab the glue and the mop. One of these little things. As I said, you can use a paintbrush or whatever you feel works best for you. And it's really important to get into every tiny little crease, because if there's any air getting in anywhere, then you're going to have the same problems starting all over again. I know what I'm going to do here. Let's put a whole bunch of glue and then spread it out after. Now it needs to go onto both surfaces. Get right in there. Now there's two ways you can do this. You can either spread it on both surfaces in one go, or you can spread a lot onto one surface and then push the other one down onto it before it dries and then peel it back up again. think I'm going to do a little bit of each. Just make sure you get right in that crease. And you, sorry.
Do you know if there's a way to clean it off if you accidentally get any on something that you don't want it on?
It will wipe off, but it doesn't matter. The acetone will get it back off.
I'm just thinking if you was to accidentally get some through here.
Oh, I see.
Like
Yeah,
that.
the acetone will clean it off.
Okay.
So that crease is going to be our first work line where we get into. Right.
We put some up in this corner just because it wasn't.
Right, now what I'm going to do, where did I put the lid? Just before this starts to go off too much, I'm going to push that down and I'm going to work it into that little join line where the two pieces meet, just to make sure some glue gets right in there. Now I'm going to peel that back, and now what we've got to do is wait for the glue to go dry enough that it no longer sticks to your finger. So right now that's wet and sticky. We're going to leave that a little while.
What do you need to do on this end?
Now I'm going to do that as a separate piece.
Okay.
Right, so now we're going to cut the video. I'm going to wait probably 5 or 10 minutes and then we'll come back and see what we've got then. Okay, now we've given this a little bit of time. On the urethane side, it's now completely dry to the touch. On this side, there's still a very, very slight tack to it, which is fine because what I'm going to do now is heat it one final time. Again, just to give us that last bit of stretching. And what I'm going to do is hold it up and heat from the other side, just to make the vinyl nice and soft again, ready for that final stretch into position. Now we've got two markers here. We've got the line and we've got the screw hole there. So we're going to start with a screw hole. Get that one into position, and then we're going to try and get these other bits to glue down. I can feel a little air bubble there, so we'll pull that out. Now you can see how hard that's stuck already. I can pick that card up with that, so we're going to have to peel that back a bit.
Take it, you've got to massage it almost just to make sure that you don't get any
Exactly.
collections of anything.
And if you make a mistake like I did, you just peel it up and start again. I've got one in there.
Can we not peel it back to that line and then just force some glue into that hole?
Well, it'll still be tacky anyway. It hadn't finished completely going off, so it will allow us to peel it back a little bit, get the air out, and then re-stick it again. I'm using a bit of what nail I've got. You don't want a sharp nail, but mine are pretty much chewed down. Just there. It's just to force it into that little crease. Now, this is a job you might want to take along to a car upholsterer or something who has a lot more experience with these things, he might get a much better job than me. As I said right at the beginning, this is not my skill or profession. It's a combination of trial and error and practice to get it right. So that looks pretty good. This one here keeps coming up, so I might have to put a little bit more glue down there. Yeah, I've missed a little pocket there where I didn't glue, so we'll just slip a little bit more in there. Or maybe I didn't clean the area properly. If you try to stick this down too soon, it won't stick. You have to wait for the glue to go hard first, or nearly hard, in order to get it to stick. And the beauty is you can do it over and over and over until you get it right. Now I'm going to stick that again, I think. But that bit up there all looks good. We've gone down into the crease. The hole's lined up. So it's just that little piece there.
The camera has a tendency to bring out all of the little imperfections because of the way that the light reflects on it.
Yep.
However, that is quite possibly one of the best jobs.
It's not too bad. It's a very difficult job. It's a very time-consuming job, but it really is beautiful that we can do it over and over until we get it just right. And if it's the first time you've done it, do not expect to get it right first time, but do it in small sections and just work it, experiment with it. As long as you take your time, you'll get it right. So I'm just going to redo that bit, but when I redo that bit, I'm also going to do the next strip across. So, glue, where did I put the glue? I think this mop will be good for one more. I just want to check that, yeah, it's gone off now. We'll do one more there. And I'm going to do the same as before. I'm going to put a nice line of glue and then come back with the mop again and do both sides. Right up in there. Now, if this glue is not exposed to air, it will not go hard. So you have to make sure that you're able to peel the vinyl back enough to let air get in there. And there's no point in putting in whole bunches of glue. You just want enough to do the job, no more. Thin coat is all it takes. And same as last time, I'm going to just use this to get the glue into all the little cracks, then I'll peel it back. Oops, got some on my hand there. And allow it to dry. Right, give us another 5 or 10 minutes and we'll come back to that again. So we're now ready for that next stage. Once again, we're going to heat it up because we've always got to stretch it into that inner pocket. Okay. Let's see if we can get this next stage just right. Now, it will be very difficult to get an absolute perfect finish because remember, you've peeled away the old foam. There's going to be slight imperfections in there. But generally speaking, we should be able to get this pretty darn good, I hope. Always keep your marker holes in place. Imperfection or an air pocket? I think that's an imperfection in the foam.
However, once you're allowed for putting the door upright rather than under direct light,
Yeah.
it may be a bit better off. It does stress the importance of looking after them.
Okay, now we move on to the next section, which is probably also the hardest section. And that is this big trough here. Now that's a lot of stretching we've got to do, and it is more than possible, but what we mustn't do is allow the vinyl to come this way to force that in, because that would be the easy way, but the problem with that is you're then going to find that none of this lines up. So this will always be your marker point that has to be correct, and everything else in the middle has to be stretched to fit. So what we're now going to do is glue the next area, quite a wide band this time, and everything is going to have to be stretched into that band. Looks like I missed a little bit there, so we'll come back to that as well. Oh, and by the way, this glue is air dried, so if you put this down before the glue has gone off enough, then it will never ever dry, it will remain tacky. So always make sure it is completely, not quite hard, but not tacky in any way. It must feel like it's dry. So I'm exposing all these last little pockets for that to dry where it wasn't completely dry, and now we're ready. So what I'm going to do is this section down here, about 2 inches, 5 centimeters, something around that area, and this is probably the most critical point because this is such a common area to have the problem, and the plastic is so heavily stretched over that area.
Is it worth doing this bit here as well at the same time?
No. Just give me a second. Where did I put the lid?
It's over here.
The reason is it won't allow the air to come out if you seal such a big area, so you've got to work it as you go, bit by bit. And this really is the most important area, so don't be surprised if you have to do it 2 or 3 times. I don't think I've ever got this to go right the first time. And this is a problem for me doing it on video because you always expect some sort of miracle.
It's first time.
Yeah, and there won't be a first time. We've not got the machine to help us with it. It's all being done by hand and eye. Okay, same as before, I'm going to run this down into position just to let the glue spread about as evenly as possible. Hopefully get it into any little pockets that we may have missed, hopefully.
Should have heated up perhaps.
Well, it's only to spread the glue onto both sides evenly, and then I'll take it out and do again. Okay, now we'll pull that back apart and leave it to air dry. Hopefully both sides will mirror each other and go into place. Once again, we'll leave that 5 or 10 minutes to go off. Okay, so we're now on to section 3. It's gone pretty tacky and dry, so we're about ready to stick it down. But this is probably the most critical stage of all, because this is where we're stretching it the very most, and also where lining up is the most critical. So for this, I recommend that you get another pair of hands to help you. As before, we're going to heat the vinyl. We're going to get it nice and hot, so it's also very, very supple, same as before. And spend your time on this. Don't try to get too much heat in one place at one time. It's a nice gentle process. You can see the vinyl getting soft and stretching as we heat it. Go back and forth, take as much time as you want. We've got to do an awful lot of stretching here, so it's really important to get as much heat in it as possible. Now, if you recall, we put some mineral oil on there. That tells us if we're getting it too hot, so as long as you don't see any smoke, you should be in a nice safe position to keep the heat going. And as with the other places, if we have to come back to it over and over and over, then we'll come back to it over and over. So, let's get this lamp hole lined up first. We'll push it into all the corners, and I'll get someone to hold that for us. And then we'll line up this one. Even though we're not bonding these places, these are our key markers. So if someone can hold that one. And now we'll start to where the glue was. Working out any air pockets as we go.
So this one's definitely something that is ideally a two-person job.
Definitely a two-person job. I think I might have missed a bit of glue in the corner there, but I'm not sure. We might have to peel that back and do that one again. Hard to say. Could just be where I've got it hot and the glue's come soft again, so I won't redo it at this point. Okay. Now I'm going to move on to the next section. And now this is all tight up here. We've taken all this bagginess out. So now we're ready to glue the next part. So now my help can let go. We'll peel this back down. And we're ready for this section. Thank you for my help, for your help. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, same process as before. Glue it all, both sides, and then let it dry. Right, so this is stage 3 or stage 4, but all the same, it's the same process as before. Gentle warming of the plastic. I really envy you guys that live in nice warm climates. This job should be a bit of a doddle for you. Thank you. Thank you. Just pull it this way a little bit. Okay, let's get this one in first. If you could get that one for me. Sit down. You can see how well this beautiful adhesive is holding this all tight into position. It works really, really well. Small air pocket there that I'm going to have to redo. Maybe as it cools down, I can feel that the glue is still a bit tacky under there, so it's not going to bond. But as you can see here, all of this is now coming beautifully into position. We just need to go up to that line along there. So for the first time in years, this is now all exactly as it should be. Pretty much no sign of repair at all. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to give it a few more minutes for the glue under here to go harder, and then I'll have another go at bonding that back down. So as we continue with the process, we're We're trying to create a line here so we can slowly roll it down as we go. This is all now bonded in, all very well, up to this line here. So we've still got a flap here, we still have a flap here. So these are the next two pieces we're going to take care of. We're going to get all the glue under here up to a line, same line as this one. And then that will allow us to roll down the last little bit. So same as before, same process exactly. I almost don't need to show you this anymore, I shouldn't think. You've seen it 5 times already. Good dollop of glue, but not too much. Put the lid on. Grab myself a little mop and spread it right into all the cracks. And that is really, really important. I cannot emphasize how important it is to get it into all the cracks. Now we're not going to go all the way down to the very edge because we'll still need a little bit left for rolling back. Just want to get over this little hump here so we can manage that last little bit. If we go too far, it will always peel back if we need to. Once again, I'm going to stick that down just to make sure we've got a good even spread of glue. Put it into all the little cracks under there, all the little creases, which is really, really important to prevent any air pockets. Then I'll peel that back to leave it to dry. And while that's drying, I'll turn this round and do the same on the other side. Again, we're going down to this line here. So we're going to get as much glue as we can, probably along this line here, sort of to there. Don't go around the edge at this point, that'll be the very last thing we do, all the edges. It's gone through to where the buttons are. You know, I'm not a master at this. I do remember when I did the dashboard video, which I know loads of you have used and managed to repair your dashboards. I'm only trying to show you techniques based on what I've learnt myself and the materials that I've managed to find. I'm in a very lucky position that I do have a lot of these cars and I have certain resources available to me that many of you don't, and I'm happy to share those with you. Okay, get that down, spread it around. Okay, we'll cut the video at this point while that dries and then come back to it after. Same process as before, just going to warm up the plastic. Just helps us to get it all into position, all nice and neat. Now we no longer need to stretch it too much. So from here on, all we're going to do is just pull it into place over the edge there, and onto the other side. Exactly the same. Now we've got a hole here that needs to line up, so we'll use that as our key, and everything else will work around that. Okay, that looks good. Now we're ready to move on to the next section. Now this will probably be the last section I actually show you, because I've shown you all the main key areas and how to work them in. The next section now will, I think, be down to this line here, just on the top ridge. And we'll glue that. We won't go round the edge. The edges are always last, so we're just going to glue along here inside the holes. But I will show you those being bonded down, just so you know how to work them all into position. So same process as before, good coating of glue, leave it to harden, and then I'll come back with you when we're ready to bond it down. And here we go again. Same process as before, simple warming up. Now at this point we don't actually have to do much stretching, so the warming is purely to make the vinyl nice and supple, so we can pull it into place without too much work. And it also reduces the risk of tearing if you do it just right. Here's where we might have to have a little stretch just to get those into the right place. Use the holes as the key. Unfortunately, we do have the lamps to go in here, so it doesn't matter if it's slightly untidy around these holes. sure if you go to any professional upholsterer, he will tell you this is all really simple stuff, because they do it all day. But some of us have got to work at the job. Okay, now we can move on to the next section. Now what I'm going to do is same as before, gluing and then sticking, and this time I'm going to come to this line here. So I'll leave you to do that. I'm also going to go around here and down to here probably. Certainly no going over the ridge at this point. Okay, more glue. Same as before, warm up your plastic. Now this time, of course, we've got lots of holes that we've got to line up, and we're going to do them bit by bit as we go. But remember, you've also got to work the air out as you go. So get yourself lined up the best you can. Because these are all hidden holes, you are going to have a little bit of tolerance to mess around with. What's more important is to get anything that's visible just nicely straightened out, get all the creases back where they belong, get any air pockets out as you go. This was another place we had lots of air bubbles. Really is important to remember that this last bit gives you lots of room for error because no one can see it. It's behind another panel, so if the holes don't line up perfectly, you're going to get away with it. But I don't think they're going to be too far out. Now there's one thing I've learnt with this job, doing these door cards, is the more time you're prepared to put in, the better the result will be. And I can honestly say, if you want an absolutely perfect factory finished door card, be prepared to put in 4 to 6 hours of slow, methodical. It doesn't mean you may well have to pull off the vinyl over and over and over and re-glue it and reheat it and re-stretch it until you get it just right. But it will go absolutely factory finished if you're prepared to put in the time. Okay, now we're nearly on to the home stretch. And for the next couple of bits, I'm not even going to bother filming them. I'm going to leave them to you, but I'm going to tell you what you need to do. We're going to start with the two sides. We've got the two edges to do. You're not going to go round the corner at this point. You're just going to glue down this side, down the other side. When those two sides are done, you're then going to glue along the bottom the same. Now, if you recall, we pulled up some foam here by accident. That's not a problem. You're going to glue down the foam first. Once the foam is glued down, you're then going to glue down the bottom. And then I'll come back to you after for the final bit on the other side. So I'll leave that with you for a minute, and I'll do my best on this one. Okay, so with all the final piece of the face done, and I've done along the bottom and both sides, we can now turn it over for the final piece of the job. And this is quite an easy piece. It's pretty much the same as you've done on the front, but with one difference. When you go to fold this over the edge, you must not pull it up because it will create a pocket down the back. So literally all you're going to do is glue both faces, same as before. You can warm it slightly if it's starting to go a bit old and hard like this, or if you're in a cold climate. So just warm it, and then all you're going to do is just gently fold it over and stick it down all the way round. You can do all of this in one piece. You don't have to do one section at a time. And one final thing, if your foam has started to lift off of the hardboard backing, all you need to do is glue down the foam first, let that harden, and then glue the remaining vinyl over the top. So I'll do that, I'll leave you to do the same, and then we'll come back for a final look at the job once we're done. So with the edge trim now stuck down, we're about finished here. If we flip this over, the next thing I'm going to do, you'll notice in a few places I've got some glue that I've spilt and it's gone over in a few places. So I'm now going to get some acetone, I'm going to clean off this old glue. Then I'm going to give the door card a coating of this Meguiar's number 40 vinyl and rubber, which they've discontinued, but you can still get in places. Fantastic product. It doesn't leave that silicone looking shiny surface. It gives a natural original factory finish. And then I'm going to put a couple of the bits back on, the lamp, the handle, speaker, just so we can have a final look at the completed job. And I'll catch up with you once that's done. So there we have it, guys, the final product. This project has been so long in coming. I know so many of you have asked for it, and I apologise for the delay. But as you can see, this was one of the worst door cards I'd ever seen, and it is now restored almost to perfect condition. With a little more time, I could have got it perfect. But as always with these videos, they're very time consuming. I want to thank Mitch for the whole year that he's been coming over here. He has to come a long way to help out with the filming and with the rendering and uploading of these videos. Hours and hours and hours of time have gone into them. If you want to just come round into a better light, you'll see, oops, that is now a pretty darn near perfect door card, and it's taken about 3 hours. I would suggest to you, if you want to get a perfect job every single time, look to spending 4 to 6 hours. It's taken 1 and a bit tubes of glue, a couple of the swabs to put the glue on, and a little bit of acetone. So the total cost is around £10–15, around $20, and you've got a damn near perfect door card ready to go again. Saved you hundreds and hundreds. So end of the year, end of 2020, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I want to say a big thanks to Mitch. I want to say a big thanks to the patrons that have now started contributing a little bit towards the cost of making these videos. They will remain free, but patrons get special offers, special gifts, special privileges. I hope you all enjoyed the gift that you got this year, and I hope you'll continue to support me in the future. It's been a real pleasure making these videos for you. Don't forget you can join my forum. It's not like other forums, it's purely to complement this channel so you can get in touch with me. The YouTube channel is not the means to use for communicating with me directly. It's purely for comments on the videos. If you want to get hold of me, go onto my forum. You can talk to me and some of the other members that follow this channel and promote your own forums, promote your own YouTube channels, promote your own clubs and excuse me, and groups. I think that about covers it. Happy Christmas to all of you, and I'll see you in the new year.